Now, what can you tell me of the tiers? Uphill both ways and full of dumb sods. I learned some history in training, and I've been here a few years, but I'm no expert. What is your assessment of the local forces? There was a time early in the war when I would have feared the younger realms working together. Imagine that, he chuckles. And the younger realms, for those of you that have forgotten, is basically the name for the tiers. Basically, calling them the younger realms in this context is like calling the Greek city-states Greece during the classical era. People there would look at you funny, and it would have no relevance to anything except a geographic location. Once I saw the modest scope of their defensive, I knew they would be easily outclassed. They couldn't even rally their best to make a competent stand. So tell me of the Vendrian Guard. They used to be the Queen's Royal Army of Vendrian. I guess defeat inclined them to a shorter name. We crushed them back in 429. I'm proud to say I took part in the decisive battle. You know the rest. A year after we thought them conquered, thousands of Vendrian Oathbreakers murdered the garrison and declared themselves free of the Overlord's rule. What can you tell me about the Unbroken? The Unbroken Union of Stalwart. May they rot in the decrepitude of their fallen realm. Barrack squeezes his gauntlet into a hard fist. Much as it pains me to admit it, in all the realms of the tiers, the Unbroken have been the only foe worthy to meet the disfavored in battle. The Unbroken value tradition, just as we do. Stalwart has never lost a war on their own soil, a reputation they take quite seriously. It is fortunate that Stalwart has poor relations with all its neighbors. The rest of the tiers will not come to their aid. So, as bravely as they fight, their end is inevitable. What can you tell me of the Bronze Brotherhood? Mercenaries from the free cities. The chorus needed extra muscle, and you can always mint new rings. Hard to believe the tiersmen turned on each other for mere loops of metal. The Bronze Brotherhood worshipped the Scourges. Yes, those monsters from the old walls. The mercenaries are grown adults that willingly admire a magical abomination. Read into that what you will, and I read into it that they are either imbeciles or have a death wish, possibly both. That said, it should surprise no one that the Bronze Brotherhood eventually wanted more than just rings and turned on their contract. Kairos now considers them an enemy, which is for the best. The Overlord needs a better class of combatants. Okay, now back to my previous questions, I think.
Go on, Fatebinder.
I think the younger realms, yeah. Before we marched on the Bastard Tier, I recall Graven Ash giving us a speech as we stood assembled at Fort Resolution. He told us that the younger realms lacked the sense to make a stand against us. I don't think I need to point out that the average tiersman is just plainly inferior to the sons and daughters of the North. For every one of ours they kill, we must drag 1.5 bleeding into the soil with us. It didn't help that they're afraid of magic and relied on their battlefield prowess to stage a defense. Yes, in that regard, note who weighs about it, the tiersmen are idiots. And I recall this conversation we had with that rebel water mage, who said quite clearly to those people who were accompanying her that she hadn't forgotten that if they weren't fighting in a rebellion alongside each other, then, and if that wasn't the case, she would still probably be considered a freak and an abomination and hunted as an animal, basically. Now, what do you know of the Beastmen? They drilled us on beastmen combat before the invasion, but it did little to prepare us. The local savages are lacking in brains, hygiene, and the ability to arm themselves, yet the prime hunters of their species are formidable. Aside from being rapacious killers, the beastmen make good haulers and laborers once you've killed the half that won't follow orders. Yeah, well, that's enough about the tiers, I think. As you like. You seem like a more than capable fighter, though. I trained with the spear and shield in my youth, but gave it up the day I earned disfavored iron. I can still throw with some accuracy, but it's a challenge these days. He knocks twice on his helmet. Why? Were you interested in a sparring session? Not at the moment. We have other priorities, but I heard rumor that Ash has an unbeatable sword fighting technique. Nothing is unbeatable. However, I am not of a mind to share Ash's training to an outsider. I meant no offense. Well, no offense was taken. It is your right to have some secrets, after all, Barrack. And perhaps we can spar later. But I have some questions about the Scarlet Chorus. Our allies do not share this disfavored sense of honor and discipline. The Chorus will trust any criminal, rapist, or half-wit with a truncheon or blade. What would you like to know about the Scarlet Chorus? Well, what do you know of the voices of Narat? They are kind of secrets. All I know are rumors, hearsay, speculation. But that's as much as anyone knows of the voices. Some accounts tell that he's actually dead, and the Overlord has trapped the minds of his foes in the same body to torture them all. As likely an explanation as any I've heard. In truth, I know little of the voices, and have reason to suspect almost anything about him could be true. You could tell me his tears turn cheese back into milk, and it would seem more sensible to believe you than not. Do you know anything about his powers, though? I am no scholar of sorcery, but as I understand it, the voices of Narat is a thief of minds. They say he can swipe your thoughts and make them his own. I don't know how it works. When I recruited into the disfavored, the Iron Marshal told me never to take an audience with the voices if I didn't have a witness on hand. Well, the voices of Narat, I'm going to be perfectly honest, he creeps me the fuck out. And the Iron Marshal is probably wise to advise Barrack to not be alone with him, because who knows what he would do with someone if there weren't witnesses. But what do you know of his associate, the Archon Siren? Siren is the Archon of Song, and one of the youngest of her rank. She can influence human emotion with her voice alone. The voices may be the conductor of the chorus, but I'd argue Siren is their best weapon. The voices put her talent to good use. He had her singing a song up and down the coast, and the Tearsmen defected to the chorus in droves. Well, she is certainly effective, if that's true. I'll give her that. But, and I'm only asking Barrack this because he's proven to be someone we can get along with and somewhat relate to. Do you think the voices of Narat is disloyal to the Overlord? I really shouldn't comment on such matters. Barrack looks ahead blankly and then clears his throat. Fair enough. No. How do you think the chorus have convinced so many Tearsmen to join their ranks? Other than the Tearsmen being afraid to die, I mean. It began with Siren. She had a song that got whole villages marching to her will. And once these peasants killed their neighbors or cousins in service of the voices, it either hardened them into warriors or broke their mind for servitude. Lots of criminals and drifters joined the chorus too. It seems like the scum of the tiers just need the promise of glory and sanctioned debauchery to turn on their neighbors. It's not pretty, and it shouldn't be. The chorus is a forge. All the dirt of the tiers go in, and the finest bits are refined into weapons. I really don't like that. There are many that join the Scarlet Chorus because they wish to join the winning side. It's a shame that such patriots were not born to proper northern stock, too weak or too slight to be disfavored. The Scarlet Chorus is their best freedom from fealty to the younger realms. Not everyone has the freedom of gaining Tudon's favor. But yes, from what we've seen of the Tiersmen, they're not exactly what I call strong or capable warriors. So I have to be honest. I'm of the opinion that the Tiersmen would only be a weak link in the disfavored shield wall. Yes, the North is our shared link, our consistency. How could I trust a woman or man to hold the shield wall if I don't understand their customs? I have to agree with that. I mean, I'm sure at some point the disfavored will have to adapt and start accepting Southerners into their ranks, but at this point that's probably thousands of years away, so there's no real need to worry about it. Well, what can you tell me of their troops and their tactics? I mean, Tiberius has his own opinion about this matter, but we want to hear from Beric. Tactics? These are the first I've heard of them. The chorus is more of an irregular mob than a proper army. Still, it's a well-armed mob, and they even have a few proper warriors and magicians in their pitiful excuse for ranks. What do you know of their warriors? Most chorus rats are untrained peasants, handed a knife or a pitchfork. It doesn't take much to qualify you for the front lines. One only needs a beating heart, and even then the chorus could make do. Of course, not everyone in the chorus is an infirm child or a sickly old crone. Some ex-soldiers and madmen join, and the fighting elite of the chorus form a clique known as the Scarlet Furies. Standing right here, in the form of verse. Beric is too dismissive by far, but he's right that most recruits are novices pressed into service. Most will not survive the first few battles. Those who live will have experience to lead, and those who fall can be replaced easily replaced, rather. Yeah, those two viewpoints strike me as just being different sides of the same coin. Because verse is basically saying most of the people pressed into service get their training through battles if they live, and if they don't, we can replace them. Beric is saying they just throw people at the enemy, and those who survive become competent. But what sort of magic is used by the chorus? The blood chanters are the mages who follow the voices of Narat. Like the chorus itself, their order is not steeped in tradition and antiquity, rather built on knowledge stolen from other guilds. Their fire magic earns them a place on the battlefield, but they also have chants that stir the mind and the heart. The motherless sods have spells that can bolster a man's courage or tap into his fears. So if the chorus is a mob, how is it led and supplied? Or do they basically just wing it? Oops, misclick. As I was saying, do they basically wing it when it comes to supplying and put anyone who's survived through a couple battles in charge? Or do they have an actual chain of command and supply lines? That's what I want to know. The voices of Narot gives orders to his elite commanders, who in turn send instructions out to the gang captains. But beneath that hierarchy, it is chaos. So about what I was thinking for their chain of command, I suppose. Whole gangs will break from the larger force and disperse back into their homelands. The chorus is inefficient beyond words, and yet more bodies keep coming in to replace those lost in the mess. Inefficient? Every weakling lost in the shuffle is one less burden to those in the choir still dancing to the song of battle. Our ways must be harsh, otherwise the stupid and the soft will inherit the chant. Honestly, I have to agree with Barrack here. The chorus is inefficient to the highest degree, and they are quite literally making the stupidest mistakes they possibly could. And, more to the point, their stupid decisions are giving the enemy more troops back, so I am not fond of them, and I probably never will become fond of them. But back to Barrack's conversation. The chorus has a lot of mouths to feed, so the conscripts that can't or won't fight are made to gather food and water, else I'm told they're fed to the pigs, becoming food and water in a sense. Barrack shrugs. That's kind of grim, but considering the kind of things the Scarlet Chorus tends to do, it makes sense from their perspective. A fine contrast to the honor, efficiency, and decency of the disfavored. The Legion demands courage and tenacity, but provides us with good iron, and does not leave its soldiers to forage like vultures. Exactly as I was saying, the disfavored probably have a firm hierarchy and a well-managed supply line to ensure their soldiers have food and equipment for their campaigns, unlike the Scarlet Chorus, who just do whatever the fuck they can. And that's enough about the chorus.
Good. Let's move on to another matter.
Well, I'd like to know more about you, actually. On the line your enemies cannot cross. All other details are meaningless. But I suspect you have some thirst for details, so ask away. Did you seek the trade of war, or did it find you? Is the thing I'm curious about. How do you end up in the disfavored? Both, I suppose. I knew fighting was in my blood, and the disfavored offered me a chance to use my skills to bring peace. Otherwise, I'd have wound up some brigand or an enforcer to a crooked merchant. Barrack taps his scabbard, looking away in thought. You think Ash and his legion bring peace? That's cute, but it doesn't hold any water from where I'm standing, big guy. I've seen them spill as much blood as any chorus gang. Yes, verse, but as in any other situation, the devil is in the details. They spill as much blood, but the difference is that the chorus kills people for shits and giggles, while the disfavored do it to accomplish a greater aim. There's quite a significant difference, even if you can't see it. You've clearly been too busy sacking villages and stealing crops to notice how a proper army conducts a war. We sow order, not discord. Yes, I agree. Barrack is right. The Scarlet Chorus is too chaotic to recognize order. We've gained fear with verse and loyalty with Barrack, and an achievement. I can see you're beginning to understand. The chorus is a useful tool to throw at one's enemy, but it grows brittle with age and is soon replaced. The disfavored needed recruits in anticipation of the march south. They offered to care for my mother and brother as long as I stayed with the Legion, which is a better guarantee than you'll find anywhere else. I was an elite fighter as far as most were concerned. though still green by disfavored standards. Lucky for everyone, my skills improved under the Iron Marshal's rigorous training. Well, tell me about your name. Barrack is a shortening of my northern surname, which has been passed down through the generations, since Graven Ash assembled his army. I go by it because I wear it with pride. The proper form is Barraconen, which I actually managed to pronounce, astonishingly. Beyond its age and association with the General's Legion, the name of Barraconen has no great titles or associations. I hold no claim to a great house or legacy save for the disfavored. They are all the kin I need. And I'm kind of asking the obvious here, but as with all disfavored, I assume you grew up in the Northern Empire. That's right, I grew up in Battle of Rest, and then trained at Fort Resolution before they marched me out to support the second cohort. I hope to spend my rusting years in Fretton Shores, unless of course I die in glorious battle, which would be preferable. This guy really likes combat, doesn't he? I mean, he'd prefer to die in glorious battle than spend his time in retirement. Well, I suppose, since he's basically trapped in his armor, being in retirement might be a little uncomfortable. My mother is good with the soil, my father with rings. He spends much of his time away on one merchant's errand or another. Still, I'm lucky to say they're both alive. Yeah, Tiberius can say the same, although our family are currently in limbo and accused of being traitors to the Overlord. So, that kind of puts a damper on things. Now, what's the story with your armor, anyways?
It is a symbol of Kairos' will, one that I am not likely to forget. I found this armor. Perhaps it would be better to say that it found me during the Edict of Storms.
What happened during the Edict of Storms? When we heard that Kairos would proclaim the edict, we rushed into the field to battle the forces of Stalwart. I was shoulder to shoulder with some of the Legion's most decorated veterans, and my pride blinded me to the danger. Our march was a hasty one. A cohort of disfavored soldiers vanished in the second year of the war. Among them, the daughter of Graven Ash. After a long silence, we learned that she was held in the fortress of Sentinel Stand. Wow, Graven Ash must have been furious. I mean, if he gets along this well about his legion, then he would have been absolutely foaming at the mouth if he found out that someone was holding his daughter prisoner, that's for sure. But go on, Barrack. As we surrounded the citadel, I heard the opening peals of thunder, as did the scout I was busy trying to kill. Then the winds hit like an avalanche. Many of us begged Kairos for deliverance. What else were we to do? The winds knocked the legs of our offensive out from under us. All the decorated soldiers I brought to the battle were swept up and dashed to pieces, their armor and bodies mixing with the dirt of a tornado that spun in its maddening revolutions. Damn thing chooses this moment to go dry, and so few survivors to recount the edict. Bah! Lantry is apparently writing this whole thing down. Lantry shakes his quill and presses it harder against a scrap of parchment, imploring it to write. A piece of the citadel wall broke off and nearly crushed my skull. I only remember a few scattered moments from the storm, like the flying bits of bronze and iron cutting my flesh, the severed limbs of fallen soldiers tumbling through the air. Eventually, I woke up, thinking myself trapped under rubble, when I rose and felt like I was buckling under my own weight. That's when I realized I was stuck, right and truly stuck, inside this heap of scrap. How did you survive when everyone fell? That is a mystery to me as well. Did Kairos hear my plea for mercy? Did this heap of scrap metal protect me, imprison me, punish me? He rubs the back of his helmet with his gauntleted hand, a pantomime of a gesture his armor prohibits. I don't have enough fingers or toes to count the possible reasons, so I try not to dwell on them. Okay, we're not going to ask if he's tried taking it off, because that's just a stupid question. Of course he's tried. Well, it looks like pretty solid protection, I'll give you that. That would be an understatement. If only it protected me from foolish questions. Eric regards you in such a way that you can tell he's rolling his eyes. A forlorn sigh escapes his helmet. Didn't mean it as a stupid question, honestly, but do you handle your own repairs? I try to keep the surface oil to slow the spreading rust, and I bend the plates from time to time, but repairs? Maintenance? No. If you have any ideas of how to better maintain this situation, I'm open to discussing them. Well, I'm curious about one other thing, then we can move on. What happened to Ash's daughter after the edict hit? She was trapped behind the walls of Sentinel's stand, imprisoned by Kairos' storm, as well as the fortress itself. 1,000 soldiers standing from shoulder to shoulder could not have endured those winds to rescue her. Well, I guess she's dead then. Ash must be incredibly loyal to the Overlord to have not gone ballistic towards him after something like that. And more immediate concerns? No need to actually discuss any of those, but farewell. And that was a very long conversation. We're going to travel to Echocall Crossing now. The battle has already begun. Keep watch. The enemy may strike again at any moment. Let's see. We have Antio and Bitter Quip. Time to have a word with Antio. Back over here. Maintain defensive posture. Winded, the disfavored commander clutches his blood-stained chest piece as he takes a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. His focus is on the scattered, wounded men around him. He has yet to notice you. Your plan has been a rousing success. Most of our troops dead, a bridge destroyed, and the Vendrian Guard push us back to where we started. Ladies and gentlemen, the finest the North has to offer. And for your next act... Oh, shut up, you Scarlet Chorus scum. I needed those Furies on point. Don't mock my strategy after working against it. We could have taken them. What is happening? Shouldn't you be on the other side of the bridge? We tried to rush the western bridge. Blow for blow we had them running, but... His gaze drops. A long sigh escapes. But halfway across, the whole damn river just... The blood chanter gesticulates, flailing for words. Lurched up. The cursed Matani swallowed the bridge, and most everyone on it. Only real soldiers we have left are the Scarlet Furies that I, quite wisely, directed into a flanking position. A few of us kept our footing, but the advantage was lost. We had to fall back. As we did, the Oathbreakers surged down the east bridge. We held ground until they fled back across the river, but now we're back where we started with only a fraction of the strength. Okay. Well, they need to know this. It's valuable information. A member of the School of Tides is alive and working with the Vendrian Guard. I assure you, she's the culprit. That would explain it. I saw a woman dressed in blue on the other side of the river. Didn't seem like she fit with the others. Had we focused our strength into one perfect lunge, we could have crossed the bridge before the enemy knew what was killing them. But it's not too late. We can use the Scarlet Furies too, and he's gonna interrupt and be a jackass, isn't he? No, fool. Stop suggesting ways to get my gang killed. Are you working for the Oathbreakers? We should wait until the enemy is no longer on high alert. If Antio's plan isn't a good one, what would you suggest instead? Or is your plan just throw numbers at them? There is a time for initiative and a time for patience. We should try a different part in the river or come back later. The enemy is too wary of us now. Are you in such a rush to see Kairos' edict come to pass? Sorry, Quip, but I'll strap you to my back and charge down that other bridge alone. But doing nothing isn't an option. Well, we can sit and wait for Kairos' edict to kill us, or we can actually do something. What would you prefer? If this were a hearing of grievances, I'd let you call the shots. We are talking about the lives of my gang. Conscripts are a copper a dozen. But Furies, I have worked hard to secure the loyalty of my gang. I will not scrap fine warriors on so buffoonish a plan. Yes, I think it's time we essentially blackmail him a little bit. I suppose I'll have to tell the voices of Narat that his agents were soft and cowardly in the face of any real opposition. I'll just be on my way now, shall I? Huh, do you think your words would change? The Chancer smiles wide. I meant to say, perhaps the Fatebinder is right. Antio is in charge. When you meet next with the Archons, you will tell the voices I was instrumental in the success of the crossing. Just like that. The disfavored warrior crumples his face in his palm. No, wait. I won't question it. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, you had best be thanking me, and the Fatebinder. We've saved the disfavored time and time again. What's one more? Listen up. For this to work, my Furies need a moment to get out of cover. Fatebinder, you need to run up the East Bridge. Don't get yourself killed, just draw their attention. I'll signal my Furies to send a rope across while you have them occupied. There's no time to waste. Let's hope your gang delivers. Antio turns to you, nodding with a heavy frown. Thank you, Fatebinder, and good hunting. And our quest has been updated. The only one that we have left, mind you. And I'm going to hide completed quests, actually. Just so to clear things up. And our objective is to attack the Eastern Bridge. Quickly, Fatebinder, to the bridge. But actually, wait, it is time for us to do some looting. Actually, I've been playing for an extremely long time. In fact, we've just crossed about the 2-hour mark for my total amount of recording. So I am going to call a close to this recording session here. This has been DarkPhoenix Ninja 92, and you've been watching my Let's Play Tyranny. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.